get that tax return filed so you can plan for that payment, plan for that IRA funding, because believe me, it is my spiritual quest to get creative people to put more money in their fuck you funding. Welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for self-employed people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're a creative or soul-centered entrepreneur or wellness practitioner who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hello, great to be with you all. I want to talk to you today about some basic tips to make your taxes better for this year right now. So we're a little bit into tax season already. I know most people who aren't accountants, you might not have even thought of any of this yet. And to be totally honest, that's how I tend to be in my life. I tend to be a little late to the party. Oh my God, you should see my kids' teachers at school. Like, did you get that email? So I totally understand where you're coming from if you really have not even thought about your taxes yet. But when it comes to your taxes, earlier is better. Definitively, demonstrably better for multiple reasons. And so I want to give you a little nudge today to get some stuff organized. And I want to give you some concrete tips for things you can do right now and reasons that you might want to do them. Okay? All right. Just a little aside before I jump into that, though, I want to just say that I experienced one of the great pleasures of being an artist over the weekend, which is I traded some artwork. And so I got a new piece in my collection and I feel so excited. My gallerist is moving galleries. And so I got a bunch of work back because obviously she had to sort of like clean out her inventory and before she like takes it back again in the new space. And so I just had all this work packaged, some of it, that's quite old. And anyway, so it seemed like a really great moment to talk to other artists in the gallery to see if we could trade. And my friend Colby Caldwell, I will shout him out, who's a really fantastic photographer here. And he also shows in the gallery in DC. He and I traded him a painting for one of his big, beautiful photographs he does sort of like photographs of the Appalachian wilderness, but in a more creative way than straightforward. So this is a huge blown up photo of a shotgun shell casing that is actually this like gorgeous pink color, even though it's a little bit dark. So I just love it so much. And I like curated my living room, took down some old stuff, put up some new stuff, like rearranged the art in the living room this weekend. Oh, I just feel so happy. So anyway, I'm curious if you're an artist, do you trade with your friends? I'm curious if people in other fields do things like that. I'm not quite sure what that would look like if you're a dancer or if you're a massage therapist. I can picture what that looks like, and that would be real nice. But anyway, just wanted to shout out Colby and my gorgeous new piece of art that I'm super excited about. Okay, so today, let's talk about tips to make your taxes better right now. What are just some small things you can do to be more organized and have a less horrible tax experience? Okay, so if you haven't set up your systems yet to collect your receipts for your small business, for your self-employment, and your tax documents, do that now, because if you wait any longer, the problem can snowball. All right. Now, I'm not going to go through all those systems and how they work, but I did a whole episode on it in January, and I will point you back to that episode. So the episode is called the De-Stress Your Taxes Checklist. So just scroll back if you're on Spotify and Apple, scroll back maybe about 5 or 6 episodes ago, the De-Stress Your Taxes Checklist. I'll also link that in the show notes. In that episode, I talk about how to set up a receipt collection system that's super easy and always chronological. And then also how to collect your tax documents in a way that you'll always be able to find them. Because let's be honest, who hasn't freaked out and rifled the whole house and every pile of papers, if you have a house that looks like mine, to find a missing 1099 at some point, right? It definitely happens. So get that done. Second, I want to say that getting your bookkeeping done is a big deal. And honestly, without your bookkeeping being done, if you're self-employed, it's going to hold up your taxes, right? It is going to be a barrier in your way to getting your taxes done. And so the earlier you do it, the earlier you unlock your ability to actually file your taxes. Get your paperwork into your accountant if you have one, or sit down with, your tax software if you're doing it yourself. So a little nudge that if you've been a little resistant to doing your bookkeeping, now really is the time. It's a good idea. It will be helpful for you. So I want you to try to shift your thinking around it if you're resistant to bookkeeping, and try to think about it more like self-care. Okay. It's kind of like getting exercise and eating well. You might not love doing it, but it will make you feel better. Okay. I do recommend for people in my program to create positive associations when you're doing things that are hard or that you feel resistant to. So if you could see the other side of my screen right now, I have this whole little setup behind my computer where I have incense, I have candles, I have a little crystal, it's a little woo back there. And I clean my desk, I light my candles, I burn some incense, and I put on Beyonce, or I don't know, I've been really into Grace Ives lately. Do you guys know Grace Ives? Love her. If I need to kind of shake my booty in the studio, shake something off, I play with Megan Thee Stallion. She's my favorite dance music. Oh my God, love her. And Leon Bridges, he was my Spotify like number one most listened to artist. So I'm just shouting out the actual music that I'm listening to. So play some music that you love, clean your desk, light a candle, have a delicious coffee or beer, glass of wine, whatever kind of floats your boat. Do some things around your bookkeeping that make it feel kind of nice, so that the next time you sit down to it, your brain associates the nice thing with the bookkeeping. I know this sounds like a funny thing to do, but it really does work. If you consistently do something pleasant at the same time, you will start to actually look forward to it. So this is a way to turn bookkeeping into something that's okay for you if you've been resistant to it. Believe me, I have many clients who write me and say, like, I do the thing that you say and it's really worked. And like, now I do my bookkeeping, I kind of look forward to it. So this really works. All right. So get your bookkeeping done. Super important. Listen to some Leon Bridges while you're at it, or Grace Ives. If you didn't send out your 1099s yet, they are late. So I did some 1099 episodes. I did 2 episodes in January about 1099s. You can feel free to go back and listen to those for some help with doing your 1099s. But they were due out to any contractors you paid over $600 for the year. They were due postmarked by January 31st. Yes, there are penalties if you didn't do it, but I want to warn you that there is no way for you to proceed having not issued them if you need to issue them. There is a checkbox on your Schedule C that says, did you pay any contractor over $600 such that you would owe a 1099? And you have to check yes or no. And then it says, did you issue the 1099s? And you have to check yes or no. If you check no, you won't even be able to submit the tax return. It won't let you. Most software will give you a fail, right? So you have to check that checkbox in order to submit your taxes. Likewise, you don't escape this problem if you hire an accountant. An accountant is licensed, which means they are not allowed to lie. They're forced to make you do the thing that the tax law requires you to do. And so they will ask you those questions. Your signature is on the tax return. Your tax return is a legal document. And so you are perjuring yourself. You are lying on a legal document to the federal government if you don't send those 1099s and you were supposed to. So they have a way to catch you on that. And it's very important that you do it if you're supposed to do it. So you're only a couple days late. The penalties kick up and get higher if you're over 30 days late. So if you missed it, you're a couple days late, you're still in that 30-day kind of gentle window of the oops, instead of the I'm really avoiding this, I'm trying not to do it. Okay. So I'm just going to warn you, if you thought you maybe didn't have to do this, if you're doing taxes on your own or you're using an accountant and you don't actually file your return for several more months, you're going to hit this snag. They are not going to let you file that return without issuing those 1099s. So just do it now. Save the headache and save the fines. Next, reach out to your accountant if you have one. This is key because in the accounting industry, accountants get so busy in tax season. Tax season is referred to by accountants as busy season. If you've ever tried to email an accountant in tax season, you know that you don't get a response for a long time, if at all, right? They get busier and busier, and it's basically a crescendo that gets louder and louder until April 15th. So the closer you are communicating to them towards that tax deadline, the less likely you are going to get a response. In other words, if you have not yet booked or set up your tax appointment, do it now. It's already a little bit on the late side in February, but there may still be room. Whereas if you contact an accountant in March, a good accountant with a full practice, they won't have room for you. And you are going to be put on extension if you want help with that tax return, or you'll be left to your own devices. So you definitely want to reach out to an accountant on the early side. Okay. So do it now if you haven't done it yet. Also, if you're doing taxes on your own, and many of you are, and I totally support that, filing earlier gets you a faster refund. So again, if you just picture, most taxpayers kind of wait towards the deadline. This is pretty normal human behavior. It's why deadlines exist, because people wouldn't do anything if the deadline wasn't there. So if you file your taxes earlier in the season, you get your refund faster. This is really nice. If you are expecting a tax refund, you will get it more quickly if you file your taxes earlier in the season. You can actually go to the IRS website. There is a little dialogue called Where's My Refund? Now, of course, you can't do the where's my refund thing until you've actually filed your taxes, but it does give you a little window into what the length of time is that refunds are being processed within. And you'll see that that time is super fast in February and it slows down in March. And God forbid it's in April, it'll be quite a while, right? So it gets slower and slower and slower as you get closer to April 15th. So you want that money, file early. Now, I realize most of you listening, if you're self-employed, although I hope you do get a refund because you've been prepaying your taxes through estimated quarterly taxes throughout the year, I know that a lot of you don't. In reality, you don't. A lot of you are in a position where you owe taxes. Of course, half of the jam of what I'm teaching in my program is how to not owe on April 15th, because if you're paying quarterly taxes in the right amount, you actually should not have a tax bill at all in April. But I understand that most people, before you've gotten this education, before you've figured out that system, you do tend to owe. So I understand that if you're listening to this, the chances are pretty good you don't expect a refund. You actually expect to owe money. And I have a different thing I want to share with you. So something that a lot of people do not understand about how our tax system works is that filing your taxes and paying your taxes are two separate things. Okay. This is super important. A lot of people I see resist filing their tax return because they think the payment is due when they file. And that's actually wrong. It's not. The payment deadline is April 15th. That is a hard deadline, but you can file your taxes as early as you want. Once tax season is open in mid-January, you can file your taxes and you do not have to make that payment until April 15th. And so for a lot of us, especially when we work for ourselves, it is very happy and good to file your taxes, to do your taxes and see what you owe And if you do that in advance, well in advance of the deadline, like here I'm talking to you in mid-February, you've got 2 months until that tax deadline. Knowing what you owe and having 2 months to gather the funds together and possibly to transfer money into the correct bank account so that the payment comes out of the account you want it to, that mental preparation is really important for you, okay? The last thing on earth you want to do is put it off until April 14th. Then you don't even have time to get money into a bank account if you owe more than you thought you did. So knowing how much you owe and having a little time to gather that money is going to really help you, okay? So you can file your taxes well before the payment deadline, and you still don't have to pay until April 15th. Most tax software will let you set a date, a payment date, and you can opt to pay now, or you can opt a date of your choosing, and you can opt, and usually the default option is to set your payment for the tax deadline, April 15th, okay? So you do not need to pay when you file early. You only need to pay on April 15th. That is completely fine, and it's actually highly recommended. There's another side to that as well, the fact that paying and filing are two separate acts. You can get a tax extension to file your tax paperwork, but you actually are never entitled to an extension of time to pay. So that is also another thing for you to note, that your taxes are due April 15th every year, no matter what. And if you get an extension, it does not extend that payment deadline, which means you owe money on the 15th. So no matter what, the 15th is the date you settle up with the IRS, right? Even if you get until October 15th to actually file your paperwork, you start accruing interest, penalties, and interest starting April 16th if you have not settled up the full amount that you owe. Now, normally, what you do when you file for extension is you pay what you think you owe. Of course, it's an estimate at that point, because taxes, filing the tax paperwork, is how you actually know the exact number. You pay an estimate of what you think you owe, and your aim is to overshoot the mark. That way, because if you overpay, you don't have any interest accruing or penalties. Okay, so that's kind of the goal and strategy there. I'll do an episode on extensions as we get a little closer to April 15th. Okay. So you want to plan for that tax payment now, and it really behooves you to do your taxes early so that you see what that number is and you can plan for it. Okay. And then the last thing I want to mention is the triple deadline. So April 15th is not just the deadline for your tax payment, it's actually a triple deadline. And this can get people in trouble, but knowing it's coming and knowing what it is can keep you out of that trouble. So let me be here now for you to make sure you don't get tripped up by the triple deadline and that you know it's coming. So these are the three things that all have to happen on April 15th, and that will all affect your bank account. 1, your tax payment for the year is due April 15th, no extensions, okay? So you're settling up for 2023 on April 15th, 2024, okay? So if you have a balance outstanding, you owe that on April 15th, by April 15th, okay? Of course, if you overpaid already, you're getting a refund. You're free and easy. You don't have to worry too much. But if you owe, it's due on April 15th. Now, on top of that, April 15th is also the first quarterly estimated tax payment deadline. Okay, so that comes on the same day that your tax for 2023 is due. Your first quarterly payment for 2024 is due on the same day. So that is an additional chunk of money. It's really good for you to have an awareness that that is coming, because a lot of us only plan for one, and that's if we're lucky. Sometimes people don't plan for either of those things. So knowing that those things is important for you so that you can budget the money to be in your account by April 15th for both things. And thirdly, your IRA is due to be funded by April 15th. So an IRA, an individual retirement arrangement, this is something you are entitled to use whether you work for yourself or whether you are a W-2 employee. So it's the individual means essentially it's outside the workplace. Okay. So this is something you can do independently, so long as your income is under a certain threshold. Those thresholds, you can look up the thresholds for IRAs on any brokerage site like Fidelity, Vanguard. They'll all have a little chart that shows you. So if you're entitled to fund an IRA, there's a really cool item in the tax law that says you can put your maximum, your yearly annual maximum, into an IRA that will count for the prior tax year all the way up until the tax deadline. This is really nice. It's helpful. It's actually especially helpful if you're expecting to get a refund, because sometimes you're looking at that refund and deciding to put it into the IRA, right? So allowing you this grace period of 4 months extra to credit money to your 2023 taxes can actually lower your tax bill and allow you to put even more money into that retirement arrangement. I'm here to tell you that the tax law around tax advantaged retirement accounts is super beneficial. The more you know about it, the more you're like, oh my God, what a good deal, right? So the thing is, what I see happen all the time to self-employed people like you is that if you didn't plan for the tax bill that's coming on April 15th and the estimated quarterly tax payment that's also coming on April 15th, and you run out of funds, then no matter what your intention was for funding your retirement, funding your FU money, you don't have the money, you don't have the cash to do it, right? So it ends up being you who gets screwed. You use all that money to pay the IRS and you don't have any left to pay yourself. Okay. So when I say that a general principle to live by when it comes to personal finance is pay yourself first, part of paying yourself first means fully funding your IRA. And that means actually having more awareness of what you owe in taxes, so you know you have the cash you need to fund that IRA. Okay. I hope that that helps you get a little bit organized, see the bigger picture of kind of what's coming, make you a little bit less fearful of doing things early, because really it's all good. Especially those of you who thought that you had to make your tax payment the day you file if you file in February. I know that can create resistance for people where they don't want to file a tax return early. I'm here to say, go for it. File your tax return early. Everything about that is good. You get better service from an accountant because they're less busy than they'll be a month from now. You get your refund faster, all sorts of things. You have a little more time. If you discover that you have a 1099 that's wrong, you have time to go back to the issuer and ask them to file a corrected one. You have some time. You can manage mistakes. You can manage surprises when you do your taxes early. If you do your taxes close to the April 15th deadline, you don't have any leeway. So that's my big takeaway for you now. Those of you who are a little bit late to the party, and believe me, I live in this zone and it has taken so much work for me to be more proactive about this stuff. I am not coming from a place of like, I'm always early, I'm always on time. No. I'm definitely coming as a late bloomer on this stuff, but I want to be here to just address that resistance if you're having it, and really encourage you to get your bookkeeping done, get those 1099s out if you haven't yet, get your tax receipts and tax documents organized, reach out to your accountant if you have one, get that tax return filed so you can plan for that payment, plan for that IRA funding, because believe me, it is my spiritual quest to get creative people to put more money in their fuck you funding. Okay? If I do one thing in this world, it is to get you to have more money to say no to bad situations, to rest, to retire, to take on projects you want to say yes to, and say no to the ones you want to say no to. All right? An angel will get her wings every time one of you fully funds your IRA for the year. And send me a screenshot if you do. I want to see it and I want to celebrate you. All right. So nice to talk to all of you. Go to the links in the show notes to get that. I have a 1099s episode for you, and the getting the de-stress your taxes checklist. Those are two resources that you can go to if you need a little more help with this stuff. And of course, my program is designed to do the deep work on all of this stuff. So if you're interested in Money Bootcamp, you can always send me an email and I can give you some information about the program. All right. So good to talk to you all. I will see you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps, and share it with a friend. I'm so grateful. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.